Good afternoon, I am Spectre, and this is my guide about my HPA bottle rig. So, let's start from the beginning. This entire system is designed in order to make air blasters repeatable. So, there's a lot of myths going around that HPA is a technology used in Nerf that is designed to make blasters OP. That's not necessarily the case. The way I use HPA, it's merely to improve blasters that already happen to be air-powered in order to make them repeatable. The three blasters on the wall behind me that you can see at the top are my automatic, semi-automatic, and bolt-action design blasters, and the one below that is a pump-action Springer homemade. So, I use this bottle in order to entirely improve what is already good about air blasters, which is its power, and add the extra advantage of being repeatable to it. So bolt action, semi-automatic, and automatic. A lot of work for all of them, but entirely worth it for the output. It allows you to completely gain an advantage of the field. It basically enables you to play God if you're really, really good at what you do. So let's start from the beginning. This is the bottle. This is a standard 90 cubic inch, 4500 psi paintball tank. The special part about it that you need for HPA Nerf is this regulator. This is a Ninja Pro V2 SLP regulator. And what that means is low pressure, super low pressure actually, not just LP but SLP. Super low pressure regulators made by Ninja. I do not promote or endorse them, whatever. I'm just using it because it's the only regulator that currently outputs at 300 psi. 300 psi is a magic number. Now, that's as low as most stock standard regulators go. There are adjustable ones from years back that were the center flag hyperflow, and they outputted as low as 0 and as high as like 1500. But they've been obsolete for a long time, and so that sort of design is now gone. But in its absence, we have a high flow, high reliability SLP regulator outputting at 300 psi. This is the second stage reg design, and this is really important because it turns this 300 psi into 0 psi if you fire it low enough. But I mean, who wants to fire at 0 psi? You don't get a dart out a barrel using 0 psi. A lot of people still say that HPA is dangerous. That's not the case. This is going to output your blaster at or slightly above stock overpressure valve pressures. Plugged pumps still have the capacity to outshoot in power one of these depending on how you build your blaster. I've calibrated the Red Baron. Sorry, the Red Baron. I'm using this in mirror. I've calibrated the Red Baron, and that is currently firing at homemade velocities, 220 FPS on average. So again, it's not the HPA isn't the problem. It's still going to be an air blaster thing for power. This just makes it repeatable. Now, this entire system here consists of a Ninja fill adapter. It doesn't have to be Ninja, but it does have to be a paintball style fill adapter that screws in like this to turn your first stage reg on. Your second stage reg then turns on by itself. So this is your second stage regulator. It's adjustable from 0 psi there, which you can't see, to 125 psi. The thing about this regulator here is, and if you're going to get one, you have to get an output reg that has a maximum input of 300 psi, or at least like an input of minimum 300 psi as a maximum. Now that may not make sense, but basically as long as your regulator can have an input, can take 300 psi in, the rest will take care of itself. Now from this hose line is just 6mm hose line running up to a pressure gauge, and this pressure gauge just demonstrates 0 to 145 psi, so it can actually go higher than the regulator can, which is good. It means it's not going to break. Then you got two outputs. Now I've got two outputs on this, but I have an assembly video which outlines putting in one output and plugging the other hole. This regulator has one input and 3 outputs. I use one output for a gauge, and 2 for, well, hoses. Now, why 2 hoses? Because 2 blasters. And when I finally get a pistol design done, I'll be using a HPA like Baron or automatic with pistol as a sidearm, HPA pistol as a sidearm. OP, probably not, because I'm still going to be using the pistol at like 100 PSI, but it's going to be stupidly accurate. Anyway, so, now, there's no hose connected to this yet, but using Nitto to Nitto quick connect couplers, there is now a hose connected. And at the other end of the hose is a ball valve, and a Foster or paintball style quick disconnect. Now this will connect onto the trigger grip on the Baron, you can't see it, or the quick disconnect up there. That little black nub is actually the cap covering the quick disconnect on my Stampede, which is automatic. So, this is all the output stuff. Let's screw it onto the input stuff. So technical, so great. I was aiming for maximum professional with this sort of stuff. Not. So, to operate this bottle, first stage, you screw this thread down until it is all the way down and cannot screw anymore. If you have your regulator already set to 0, it will read 0. But if you adjust the pressure, that's currently a leak in my push fit, but if you push the pressure up until, say, keep pushing, regulate it up to around 50 PSI. Now, the hose is connected, but if I disconnect the hose while the air is on, it will disconnect, and this quick coupler will actually seal it off. But if I push it back in, air is good to go. And then you connect this into the blaster and make sure it connects firmly, because if you do not connect this fitting properly to the Foster quick disconnect, then when you turn your valve on, A, you will get air pissing out everywhere, and B, you're more likely for your disconnect to just pop off and further piss air. So when you make sure before you turn it on, you turn the valve on slightly, so you can hear that air coming out now. It's now off, faster, and off again. So that's really it as far as like HPA goes. It's pretty simple, but at the same time, it's not something that you're gonna do like lightheartedly. This entire setup itself costs somewhere in the $450 to $500 range. This bottle itself, for Americans, would be about $250. In Australia, I paid $363 after postage for it. Not fun. To turn off the bottle, while I'm still here, unscrew this, and before you do anything else, valve, open, make sure that it is not pissing air while the valve is open. That is the valve at fully open, and valve at fully shut. So that's that, and then you can disconnect your hose safely, and your gauge will read 0. So you can then turn the valve back to fully off and lock it down. Now, technical specs. The stuff I use: Ninja 90-4500 tank. Make sure it's a 4500 tank if you're going to use a SLP. There are 3000 SLPs, but most of them are 4.5 SLPs. And Pro V2 is just a standard for SLP. The most important thing you need to remember is SLP. Ninja fill adapter. You can use any fill adapter, but I use Ninja. From there, second stage reg is, or this one is a Wilkerson R03-01-000. Pause that bit, replay it, put it into Google. If you can't find that, look for the next best option and make sure it has a maximum input of 300 psi. No lower than 300 psi. So if that makes sense, I'll put it again. A maximum input of 300 psi. From there, Nitto quick disconnects. This bit's optional. You could just plug a hose straight in. with some push fits. Like, I could completely disregard all this here and just run this fitting to this thread, this fitting here, which is my 1/8 to 8mm push fit, to straight into the 1/8 thread here. But I use the quick disconnect because it means if an emergency problem occurs on the battlefield, I can quick disconnect the hose, and the bottle can stay on my back and nothing's wrong. Other things to consider with this rig are the fact that you might need a pouch for it. Now, I can't tell you where to get a pouch. I got mine from, well, I don't even remember now. I think it was Pro Paintball Shop, but I don't know if they sell it anymore. And it's a Mole compatible pouch. It goes on my vest. If you're running a belt rig, you might not want a Mole rig. You might want to look at paintball stores to see if they've got tank pouches. And if you get a 90, like me, a 90 cubic inch, you'll need a big pouch. I really like the one that Dye Paintball made a really good one, and that's the one I use. I can't guarantee you'll get the Dye one. They sell out very quickly whenever they get in stock. And so that's what you want to consider there. Again, with the reg, I cannot stress the importance enough that this reg is used safely. Don't pressurize your blasters, especially if using pressurized tanks, like plastic tanks, like stock tanks. Don't pressurize above something like 80 psi. Even then, that's dangerous. I'd recommend no higher than OPV, which is 30 to 40 psi for most air blasters if you're using an XBZ and you've made it repeatable. If you're using a 4B, a B-bomb, a mega missile, any of those tanks, just be careful. This is not something you want to stuff around with as a casual. This is for the super duper serious players, and if you don't know how to do it, I recommend you do a lot of Googling, because the only way you can understand how dangerous air pressure is by watching bad things happen. And I'm not saying I want you to have bad things happen to you. I don't. I want you to be safe, but I also want you to understand the risks involved. So that's where this is at. There will be other videos, and I'll be doing other videos pertaining to specific air blasters. I might do a video about the Baron. I'm not doing one about the automatic. Don't ask for it. Basically, just remember, air pressure is not a child's toy. Air pressure can hurt if used incorrectly, both from a blaster to someone and to the user if used incorrectly. If you plan on hurting people with this, I claim no responsibility for you building something, especially since you are, well, I've told you not to do it, and I don't want to hear of anyone getting hurt because of it. Otherwise, go out, have fun, be competitive, and if you're in the USA, tell the NIC Warhost to get fucked, because HPA is on its way there, in a big way. Let's do this.